Hey, it's Adam here from MusicRadar. Today I am taking a look at a new plugin from Denise Audio. This is Bass XXL. Recently acquired by fellow US-based developer Baby Audio, Denise Audio designs plugins around a single-use mantra. Essentially, every plugin in the company's range is designed to do one specific thing. In the case of Bass XXL here, that intended function is enhancing bass sounds to add presence that works across any speaker system, even smaller speakers and headphones. Bass enhancement as a whole is nothing particularly new. In hardware, DBX's 120 subharmonic synth was a go-to tool for many dance producers back in the 90s. And in the plugin realm, the likes of Wave's Max Bass and Submarine, Brainworks' BX Subsynth, and Leapwing's Root 1 all claim to add power to your bass sounds, each using a slightly different approach. Bass XXL is an overhaul of Denise's previous Bass XL plugin. It uses what the developer calls a proprietary algorithm designed to supersize the low end. In practice, this involves creating harmonic overtones above the root note of the bass, which create the effect of more perceived low-end weight. As you can see here, the plugin looks fairly simple with three main controls. The root dial here sets the pitch, which it uses to then create the new harmonics. You can use this in frequency mode, so it's free to select any frequency in hertz there, and you can see that moving across the top. And also underneath you can switch to note, set it to a musical note, or MIDI, so it will follow an incoming MIDI signal. The harmonics dial here sets the intensity of the newly created harmonics on a percentage case, and the boost dial blends these in with the dry signal. It's essentially a wet-dry control. We'll have a look at these more in-depth controls in just a moment, but for now let's jump in and have a listen and a test to see what this thing can do. I've got here just a very simple 808 kick drum pattern. I've set the plugin to bypass for now, so we can just have a listen. Just a standard 808 kick drum coming from Ableton's built-in samples there. Let's turn on Bass XXL and tweak some of the controls and see how we can enhance that. So I'm going to set this back to frequency, and you'll see the frequencies pop up on the graph here. This graph, you can also press the minus button to zoom out and see an entire frequency range from 20 to 20,000 hertz. But by default, it zooms into the bass end, so up to 320. Let's have a listen to that now. So I'm going to tune that a bit more, get the root note right. So I can use the visual of the graph here to set that to the root kick note roughly. I'm going to tame those harmonics down a bit. So you can obviously tune that to get it exactly how you want it, but you can hear already it's added in a lot of harmonics and making it feel like there's a lot more punchiness in the bass. On this next track here, I've got a kind of fretless bass loop. I'm just going to bypass the plugin for now, and we'll hear that on its own. And then this is what I've dialed in so far. So I've tried to set the root note roughly around where the root note of that phrase starts. And I've dialed in about 63% of the harmonics. And again, I can fiddle with that and get it sounding really nice. So what I did there was start off from a bass fat preset and then tweaked that away. And you can hear it's given it a lot more kick and a lot more warmth, particularly on those lower notes of the bass line. Next up, I have this really simple sub bass line that I've just programmed in Ableton. Nothing too fancy, just using one of Ableton's default instrument racks there. What I've done this time is set it to MIDI mode, and I'll click bypass to get that back on. I had to do a little bit of fiddling in Ableton using an external instrument to send the same MIDI file back into Bass XXL, but you'll see as I play back, it's tracking. You see this white line on the graph here. So that's tracking the actual MIDI notes and adjusting the root note accordingly. And you can hear when I play it back, that's enhancing the harmonics and adding a load in. I've kind of overdone it here just for the purpose of demonstration, but that should make this sub bass a lot more, give it a lot more presence on small speakers, headphones, AirPods, things like that, which a lot of people are going to be listening to it on. So let's just check that out. This is with it bypassed. And then this is on. Lastly, I have a pretty simple drum loop here, which we're going to run through Bass XXL as well. This time I'm using a preset just called Drum Bus Thicken. This is what the loop sounds like before Bass XXL. So what I've done there is tuned the frequency to the kick drum of this loop, just using the graph and visually doing that. And you can hear it's really pushing that kick drum out. So that's what it can do and what it sounds like. Let's have a little look into some of these other controls down the bottom here. The pre-delay control creates a gap between the dry sound and the harmonics, which you can set in milliseconds, anything up to 100 milliseconds. That's going to be useful if you want to preserve the initial transient of something like a kick drum and then have the harmonics slightly delayed and come in afterwards. So you're going to get that kick coming through and that initial transient of a kick drum coming through straight away, and then a harmonics slightly delayed. The mono signal here is for controlling the stereo image of the sound. You see on the tooltip here, it's going to be, if you've got stereo sound coming into it, you can have it so that the harmonics are actually only going to be in mono, not going to mess up your mix too much with those bassy harmonics. The slope and range control are going to give you kind of finer control over how the harmonics are behaving and whether you want a more focused or smoother sound. And the range, as it says in the tooltip, is going to dampen some of those higher frequencies. Like other Denise plugins, Bass XXL's biggest selling point is how easy it is to use. There's a suite of presets included up here. And they're going to give you a nice starting point, but really the plugin is so simple to use, so few controls. You're kind of better off loading it up as a default preset and just tweaking to get you just what you need. And whatever you're feeding into it will need fine-tuning, particularly on the frequency, so you can get an accurate root note on that, which is very important because that's going to then feed into what harmonics are created from it. It's worth noting that unlike some other bass enhancement plugins, Bass XXL isn't synthesizing low frequencies below your existing bass, while plugins like Submarine or BX Subsynth can add sub-frequency content to a weak bass line. Bass XXL works by enhancing what's already there, so it can't say add missing bass frequencies below a badly recorded kick sound. What Bass XXL specializes in and works great for is helping to subtly accentuate existing bass so that it stands out in a mix and works on any speaker setup. There are more powerful and versatile plugin tools in this space, although some are far more expensive. Bass XXL is well priced. At the time of recording, it's on sale as an introductory offer for $39 with a usual price of $69. And it's user-friendly enough that it could become a go-to for many producers.